welcome to episode 4 of Dunks and Discussions, an NBA podcast. I am your host, Michael Riley, and today I am alone. And if you can't tell, there is also no video. That's just because today I am here alone, and I'm thinking this is going to be a shorter episode. I say that every week, and I am wrong every week, but the goal is for this one to be at least a little bit shorter than the last 3. I'm just going to be talking about random things that have happened in the NBA season. I'm going to start with my two teams being the Lakers and Heat. And then I just have a couple other random topics, teams to talk about. And yeah, just filling in. We're about now, every team's played about 10 to 12 games in the NBA season. So we've at least got a little feel for how the season might go for some of these teams. Can't read too much into 12 games, but you can read a little bit into it. Now we're enough in, you can read a little bit into it. But yeah, it's just going to be me here, chilling, talking. First thing I want to talk about, this is one where I don't have, like last time, I don't have a point necessarily. I have to talk about it. And that is that NBA discourse is the worst it has ever been now, currently. And I don't see it getting better anytime really in the short-term future. It's just not a good sport to talk about online or to read, I guess, other people's opinions of online, going on Twitter or X or Instagram comments, TikTok, YouTube even, what have you. It's just hard to take any online discussions seriously. There's just too much trolling. There's too many. Maybe these people are serious. I don't know. But if you support a player for something, you're glazing. And you're just like, what? Why are you even supporting them so hard, dude? They're never going to notice you. Huh? If a once good player has a single bad game, they're washed. They're washed. They just can't play anymore. They got to go play with Dwight Howard in Taiwan. You know? Most people don't even watch the games. They pay attention to the highlights, they watch the box score, and they look at the stats, and they think that tells the whole story. And, I know that people who truly know basketball know that that's not the case, but it doesn't make it any less annoying to have to deal with online. And I can't not do it. When I'm online, I can't not look at the comments of posts, of sports posts, what have you. I want to see what people are saying, but it's just filled with toxicity, and it's getting annoying. I should turn. I wonder if there's a way to turn comments off for Instagram. If there's a way to turn all of them off consistently, so I don't have to see them, but I don't know. I want to know what people have to say. I want to know what general people have to say, but I don't know. Discourse is not great right now. It just isn't. If you like a player, nope, they're bad. They're just bad. You think a player's good? No, he's bad. He's just bad. Just lock him up. They could figure some way out to stop him. Giannis? No, he's not that good. Steph? Oh, he's not that good. It's like, come on, people. These players are good. They are good. Just, you don't have to just call a player bad to get a reaction out of people. But that's what happens. And it happens with prominent figures in media. They say outlandish things to gain attention and clicks. And they hide behind the facade that they're analyzing the game. But really, they're just hating to hate, or they're saying something crazy because they want people to, I don't know, pay attention to what they're saying. You probably know. I don't really need to say any names. You probably know who I'm thinking of. There's plenty of people out there who have wild takes consistently. But yeah, again, no point there. I just wanted to say that it just, other sports have this problem too. NFL, baseball, MLB, like they also have this problem, but the NBA is the worst because it is the easiest to be a casual fan of, I think, with how, I don't know, the highlights are cool, like dunks and stuff, threes, so people can just casually pay attention to the highlights. And the NBA players are much more media stars than most NFL players in baseball, but it's just annoying. It's annoying how many casuals there are and how many bad takes people have just for the sake of getting other people angry. Oh, enough about that, though. Let's talk about the actual NBA. Let's talk about what has happened in this season. I would like to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are 7-6 right now, and they're 3-0 in the in-season tournament. 7-6, hovering right around 500, but for the most part, I think they've looked pretty good. I really do. LeBron's been their main guy. AD started strong, but LeBron has definitely been carrying them over the past week for sure. They just got a win in the in-season tournament. The last night, I'm recording this on a Saturday morning. So last night was a Friday. They beat Portland. Get them above 500 again. 7-6. They have lost to some good teams. They've lost to some bad teams. They've won against some good teams. They've won against some bad teams. All in all, D'Lo has been playing a lot better. D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Rui, they've picked it up a little bit too. I think they're figuring out their role a little bit. I've liked Reeves coming off the bench. As a team, they're still not shooting threes well, but I don't know. I kind of expected that, and they get to the free throw line more than anybody in the league. So it's pretty similar to last year's team, and last year's team made the conference finals. So I think once they figure this out, there were a lot of additions, a lot of changes to this team. They're slowly figuring it out. I predicted them to be the 2 seed before the season, and I still think they're capable of doing that. They're slotting in at number 7 right now, but the standings are very bunched up in the West and both conferences, honestly. So a lot of room for changes. You can really start reading the standings, I'd say, I don't know, just right before Christmas, right around Christmas time. That's when you can sort of look at the standings and get a feel for what could happen. Things can still change after that, though. Things can change after the All-Star break. Boston, the year they made the finals a couple years ago, they were horrible the first half of the season. So it's hard, but you just have to analyze what you're given. And what we're given right now is only 10 to 13 games. But so far, I think the Lakers will be fine. LeBron has shown like no sign of slowing down. It's a little wild at this point, actually. But this team is going to rely on Anthony Davis continuing to be dominant. That is what's going to help them win. LeBron's going to be LeBron. If AD is dominant and they get a couple role players to step up, then they'll have a shot at beating the Nuggets. But it's been a good start to the year for them, I'd say. Solid start. I don't think it's bad that they're around 500, but you can't say it's been an amazing start. But they're doing what they need to do. I guess I'll just talk about the Heat then. I think that's all I guess that's all I had. I could go on. I don't need to go all in on them yet. There's not too much to talk about. When it comes to the Miami Heat, they're 8-4. They're 2-0 in the in-season tournament. Oh, actually, here let me go back to the Lakers real quick. They are 3-0 in the in-season tournament. I believe they're the only team to have 3 wins so far. They are not locked in to the top 8, obviously, but in my mind, they may as well be. They have one more game in the like exhibition games, what have you, against Utah, I believe. And even if they were to lose that, I think their point differential would be good enough to keep them in play to make it to Vegas. But they have a pretty good shot at beating Utah. I don't know if it's in Los Angeles or Utah when they play, but they are the first team with 3 wins. They're looking like they will be one of the 8 going to Vegas. So that's pretty cool. Miami Heat, like I said, 8-4 season record, 7-game win streak right now. They are 2-0 in the in-season tournament. Jimmy's been Jimmy. Bam has been aggressive, and oh man, if you know anything about Miami Heat fans, you know that is the best thing in the world to see. When Bam is aggressive, it is hard to beat the Miami Heat. It just is. He's very, very good defensively. Everyone knows that, and he's a solid offensive player. But when he is capable of scoring 25 to 30 points in a game, that's a big difference from the 18 to 20 he's been giving you the last few years. And on top of that, with his defense, it's just nice to see. He's increased his scoring, Bam Adebayo has, in every season of his career. And this year has been no exception. He is increasing his scoring so far this year as well. Duncan Robinson, also, he is a completely different player than he was back in the bubble when they made the finals. He is a completely different player. He has improved so much. He was only a threat behind the arc. And now he is a threat inside the arc. He can drive. He has a floater. He can hang and hit a reverse layup. Did we all see that fake out on Wemby? That on the baseline? That was sick. That was sick. I mean, he couldn't have done that 3 years ago. He really couldn't have 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even. He has improved so much ever since he got moved to the bench. It's like he got moved to the bench and he just went into his lab, started figuring out. He's like, okay, well, I know that just being a 3-point sniper has not been enough. He got his contract, but now these teams are figuring him out. I have to add more to my game, and he's done it. And he has done it. Now, and he does not need to keep up this play. The last 3 games, I think he's averaging 23 points a game. On the season, he's averaging almost 15 a game, I think. 14 or 15. He doesn't need to keep that up because Caleb Martin is back now, and Tyler Hero will come back. And Tyler Hero is probably going to be the best scorer on this Heat team. And I know that's weird to say when they have Jimmy Butler. Obviously, in the playoffs, they're going to rely on Jimmy Butler. But for the regular season, Tyler Hero is who they are running their offense through. They are allowing him to thrive. They're giving him the ball. They're letting him shoot as many shots as he wants. But he's hurt right now. So now they're going back to that, I think, playoff basketball style. They're kind of sharing the wealth a little bit, but they know that their stars are there. Jimmy he's had 2 back-to-back 30-point games. They're figuring it out. Duncan Robinson's been their number 3 guy, kind of. It's been a very good time to be a Heat fan after that 1-4 start. 7-game win streak. They've been against not that great of teams, but wins are wins. Wins are wins. Jaime Jaquez Jr. has been a very good rookie, honestly. I mean, there's been a couple other rookies who I would say have had better seasons than him. Obviously, Victor and Chet, Jordan Hawkins. Has Brandon Miller been good? Oh, Ozzer Thompson. Ozzer, I don't even know how to say it, but the Pistons Thompson, he's been very good. But Jaime Jaquez Jr. has been very good for the Heat, giving him very good minutes. He's averaging, I think I have it pulled up. He's averaging 9 points a game in 12 games this year. So he is making use of his early opportunity. I did not expect him to be used so early. The Heat aren't ones to often use rookies so early. It kind of depends. But he showed them something, I guess, in the training camp. I think I predicted the Heat to go 5th in my preseason standings. And honestly, right now, I could see them being top 3 in the East. They're 4 right now. The Eastern Conference is a little, I don't know, the standings right now, it's not boring. Indiana and Orlando have been the surprise teams, but everything below the top 6 kind of makes sense. The order even they're in, even the top 4 makes sense. It's Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, Heat. The East hasn't been enough yet. I want there to be even more chaos, but hasn't been that chaotic. But the Heat have a very strong shot at just being a top 4 seed, maintaining home court advantage for at least one playoff series. And who knows? So far, they've looked good enough that they could beat the top teams in the East. But again, I'm biased for both the Lakers and Heat. Of course, I'm going to say they can win. So take that with a grain of salt. Up next, I'm going to talk about 3 Western Conference teams. Like I said, the Eastern Conference is just not that interesting to me right now. Like I said, top 4 makes sense. Indiana has had an incredible offense. They've been able to win games. They're hovering at 5. Orlando, a lot of people were talking about their young core coming into this, and they're also sitting at 7-5, tied with the Knicks. So the Knicks, Cavs, Hawks, they've been disappointing, but they're right there. They're right where they're supposed to be, hovering around 500. So the East, just there's not a whole lot to say about it that doesn't make that much sense, like I just said. But the Western Conference is a little more fun. I would like to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, I did talk about them last week, but this week I have an actual point. I have something that I can say about them. And that is that the Memphis Grizzlies are not making the playoffs. They are not. They're not going to be one of those 8 teams in the playoffs in April. And I can't say I feel confident in that decision, but the West is just such a bloodbath. They are 2-9, the Memphis Grizzlies. They're 0-3 in the in-season tournament. And that is a deep hole to be in. And I just don't see them coming back from it. Yes, the Lakers made the playoffs last year, and they started 2-10. But Memphis does not inspire the same confidence in me that LeBron James and Anthony Davis did. I had a lot more confidence in the Lakers being able to make moves to figure something out. That's not the Memphis Grizzlies' issue. Their issue is not that they need to make moves. The issue is that they have a lot of injuries. Ja is suspended. Steven Adams is out. Brandon Clark is out for the year. Brandon Clark, he got a season-ending injury last year. I'm pretty sure if he's back, it wouldn't be back until, I imagine, February, March, or maybe even April. Losing Tyus Jones and gaining Marcus Smart has not been the seamless swap that Memphis fans assumed it would be, that even I assumed it would be. And now Marcus Smart is out for 3 to 5 weeks. And I think Derrick Rose, I can't remember what his status is. So they are depleted. Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson have been very good, but this roster is too depleted, and they're off to a very, very bad start. And it's just going to be a little too tough in my mind. They're last right now. They are last in the West. And it's hard. There are 11, there are maybe 12 good teams in the Western Conference. 11 or 12. And only 10 teams make the play-in. And if I had to pick right now, I'd say that Memphis is that 11th team that's going to miss it like Dallas did last year. Dallas, they fell off at the end of the year, and they didn't even make the play-in tournament, and they had Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And that was a big deal. Everyone was like, how could this team not make even the play-in? Well, that's because right now in the Western Conference, there are 11 to 12 teams that are good enough to be a 500 level team. Maybe even 13, but I don't know about that. There are 11 to 12, and only 10 make the play-in. And even then, that's only one chance to get to the playoffs. So Memphis has to not only overcome this very bad start without their star player for another, 10 games, 10 to 12 games, without their starting center, without their backup power forward. And I just don't see it without now their secondary starting point guard, Marcus Smart, who would be their starting shooting guard maybe, or backup point guard. I'm not sure. He's out for 3 to 5 weeks. He won't be back until Ja is back. And I don't believe in the rest of the roster. They have other guys stepping up now who were meant to be bench guys or end of the bench guys, who are regular season guys who are going to come in. They're going to give you some good time, but they're not the guys who are supposed to be giving you your prominent minutes. They're not the guys who are going to be finishing off fourth quarters. Again, they have a good roster. Let me try and pull it up if I can real fast. But they're relying on players to be better than they need to be, than they really would if everyone were here and not hurt. Like they've got, Tillman's hurt too? Oh, wow. Yeah, David Roddy is very good. Bismack Biyombo would probably not be playing if Steven Adams and Brandon Clark were around. Luke Kennard has not been playing up to the standard I would think he should be playing at. Santi Aldama, is he hurt? He's only played 5 games. Yeah, I don't know. Luke Kennard was also out yesterday. They had a lot of guys out yesterday. Memphis is in a tough situation. Ja is good enough to come back and have them start winning games at least, but I don't know. I would say they're looking at potentially a 10 seed at best situation. Again, it's early enough that it's hard to really say. They're only 6.5 games back from first, but we all know they're not gonna catch up to the Nuggets at first. 2-9, you don't accidentally go 2-9. They're 2-9 for a reason. It's because they're not as good as they were last year because of injuries. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying they're not making playoffs. If they end up making the play-in and not playoffs, I guess I would still be right, but I don't even think they'll make the play-in. But my statement is Memphis Grizzlies, they're not making the playoffs. Yeah, that's what I have to say about them. Next team I have to talk about, I am not saying the same thing. This next team has actually changed my opinion on them for the better. I talked about them last week. The Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are for real. And now let me just clarify what I mean when I say that the Timberwolves are for real. I mean that they have a very good and realistic shot of being a top 6 team in the West and avoiding the play-in a way that I did not expect. I fully expected this team to be a 7 through 10 and nowhere else seed by the end of the season. Nowhere else. That's that 7 seed at best. Last year they were the 8 seed. I just didn't see much improvement. I didn't, even with Anthony Edwards jumping, I didn't believe in them. But now I do. Now I really do. I think they can compete with a lot of the top teams in the NBA. I don't know if their record will stay elite. I don't know if they're going to stay a top 3 seed in the West. But it would not surprise me if they were to be a 4, 5, 6 seed, if they were to continue to win games, if by the All-Star break they are still the 3 or 4 seed. That wouldn't surprise me. Their roster is actually pretty well rounded. They have 6 players in the top 20 in defensive rating this season. They're the number 1 team in defensive rating, and they're number 2 in opponents' points per game. This is a very good defensive team. And they have 2 stars. And one of them is making that superstar leap. Anthony Edwards is taking that superstar leap. His numbers may not pop out as much as, I don't know, the recent MVP winners, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, but his impact on the team is the same as those guys. He can win games. If the game is close near the end of it, he's good enough that he can take over and be the best player on the floor. He did that against the Celtics, and the Celtics have 4 All-Stars. One of them is Jason Tatum, who a lot of people say is a top 10, top 5 player in the world. And Anthony Edwards was the best player on that floor. The Minnesota Timberwolves also have Naz Reid, who is an incredible backup big man. And that, I think, is actually a very good thing to have. They're starting 2 big men. They're starting Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. And they have Naz Reid. So at any given time, you have a dynamic... Yeah, I'm calling Rudy Gobert dynamic in the sense that he's dynamic defensively. At any given time, you can have a dynamic big man on the floor for this team. And not every team can say that. Not every team can say that because not every big that every team has is dynamic. The Miami Heat have Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant's a very good backup center. He's not necessarily dynamic. Okay, you kind of know what you're going to be getting out of him. Naz Reid is more dynamic than I expected. He's more athletic. He is, I don't know, he's just a little more freer of a basketball player than I expect. I expect big men to be rigid and slow, and he's not that. And obviously, Karl Anthony Towns is a very good player, all-star, great shooting big man. And Rudy Gobert, even though I don't love Rudy Gobert, his offensive game, his offensive game is what has always worried me, because as good as he is as a defender, come playoff time, it doesn't always matter that much, because he can get exploited in ways if you get him out on the wing, or if you're forcing him to, I don't know. Like there's a reason the Utah Jazz couldn't get past those teams for so long, and there's a reason that the Timberwolves haven't really found much playoff success. And it's not all on Rudy. That's not fair. But it's my reasoning for why I've never believed in this team. But the fact that Karl Anthony Towns, he's picking up his play. I think he had a couple bad games early this season. But I said it last episode. Anthony Edwards is the guy on this team, and that is what it has to be. And that doesn't mean Karl Anthony Towns needs to, I don't know, slow down. It just means that he needs to let Anthony Edwards be the guy. He can still get his 22, 24 even points a game, but just let the offense run through Ant. Let the game come to you. Keep playing outstanding defense, and this team has a real shot at making the playoffs, avoiding the play-in, and maybe even winning a playoff series. And now I'm not claiming that they will, but I believe in them more to do so than I did at the start of the year, than I have the last 5 years. I do like this team. I really hope they don't let me down. I hope they don't slip. I hope they don't fall back into the play-in and hover around mediocrity the whole year. I think with 2 stars and a solid rotation, the Minnesota Timberwolves become scarier the better and more confident that Anthony Edwards gets. Now, he's very confident already, but the more confident he gets, the more that he really feels and can see and say that he's the best player in the NBA, the scarier this team gets. And I'm excited to see what they will do throughout the rest of the year. Again, please don't let me down, Timberwolves. But I think they proved that they will be at least among the upper echelon of some Western Conference teams. Or at least they can. Next team I want to talk about is a team that's been talked about to death. I think I talked about all 3 of these teams last week, but look, I didn't get my full thoughts out on them. I want to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers. Oh, I don't know if I said, by the way, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 8-3, and they are 2-0 in the in-season tournament. So they have just as good a shot as any to win that NBA Cup. Los Angeles Clippers are 4-7, and they are 1-2 in the in-season tournament. So they are probably not going to be winning the NBA Cup. But they did win a game. They won a game their first in-season tournament game yesterday against the Rockets, with James Harden hitting the game-winning 4-point play. And after Westbrook requested to go to the bench. So they're now 1-5 with Harden? Finally got a win. And Harden, was the reason they won. He hit the game winner. Winning a game is a good sign. It's very good that they won. And I think Ty Lue managed the lineup a lot better at the end than he did against Denver. Because against Denver, he let Paul George guard Nikola Jokic. And to Nikola Jokic, that's barbecue chicken. And he scored on 2 straight possessions. Was not good. I think that's the hard part with this Clippers lineup, is you need to find a lineup that balances offense and defense and size. And I think it's going to be hard for them potentially to do that. They did just get Daniel Tice, and they will get Mason Plumlee back. Mason Plumlee coming back, I think, is the key. Daniel Tice is good. Not that good. Mason Plumlee is actually pretty good. He's a good backup. But I do think that lineup that they had at the end of James Harden, Norman Powell, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubac. That seemed to work well against at least the Rockets. And that was a solid closing lineup. I think you've got some defense there, and I think you've got plenty of offense, obviously. James Harden or Paul George or Kawhi, any of those three could have gotten you a last shot. But they really are lacking size. Size is going to come back to haunt them. Westbrook did not have a great game yesterday, but I think he's going to figure out his role. It's a little sad that he had to go to the bench because his numbers are going to diminish, and then he's going to have probably more games where he shoots bad just because he's off the bench. So he'll be on the floor with, I don't know, some of the other bench guys. So he'll be the one taking the shots. And if he's not feeling it, then you start getting 2 for 9 nights like he had last night, or it was something like that. It's sad to see because he's a good player still. But, oh well, he has to be the scapegoat. He'll go to the bench. They'll probably improve, and then everyone will say it was his fault. But I don't think it was his fault that they were losing when James Harden started playing. This team has a lot of, with just so many offensive weapons. I feel good about this team being able to win close games. That it's going to be tough. They did lose to the Nuggets. They lost a close game to the Nuggets, and they let that one slip away. Honestly, they had a lead, and they had horrible lineup management and didn't put a big back in the game. So the Nuggets just can't cruise by and kill them because Jokic was so much bigger than Paul George. But they won this close game against a pretty good Rockets team. I say pretty good. Again, it's early. If I were to say, I could see the Rockets falling back down out of the play-in. They've looked better than that, but they have not proved anything to me to the way that Minnesota has. But they have looked like a good team, and I'm not going to not give them props just because I don't think they'll be that good. They have been good. You have to go with what's been shown. And the Clips did get a good win. That's a good win. But they have a lot of work to do. They really do. I could see the Clippers early in the season. Sorry, not early in the season. Before the season, I thought that the Clippers were good enough. They could be a top seed. I'm not sure if they'll be a top seed. I don't think that this experiment is going to get figured out to scary levels for a while. I'm kind of in the Reggie Miller boat. That's what Reggie Miller was saying. He said 25 to 30 games by the All-Star break, maybe. And I think that makes a little more sense. So I think that they'll be figuring things out, and it'll take a little bit. Right now they're sitting at 4-7. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't know what their schedule looks like. I could see it taking a little bit and them having a tough time getting to 500 just for a little while. And then they'll figure it out, and then I don't see them having any issue at least being a top 10 seed, and probably not even, making the playoffs. They should be in there. But I think it'll take a little while. I think they could just struggle, and the media is going to let them have it, but slowly but surely they should work their way back, and eventually they'll get to 500, probably break 500, and who knows what'll happen by March. But for now, I think it'll continue to be tough. They won a game. They did win a game. That's good. Oh, they play the Spurs back-to-back next. So that should be 2 wins. That'll be pretty close to 500. But then they've got the Pelicans, Mavericks, Nuggets, Kings, Warriors back-to-back. That's a tough stretch. So, like I said, they'll scrape by for a little bit, claw their way back. And they will figure it out. James Harden says they'll be scary. I just don't know quite yet. Like I said, the Nuggets to me are the best team in the NBA. I'd say the Celtics are probably right there, number 2. And I don't think the Clippers would be able to beat either of them in a playoff series. Obviously, the Celtics would have to be the finals, but assuming they even got there, I wouldn't be able to see that. Well, I'm sitting here. I'm well below what I usually am. These usually are about an hour. I don't have any more to talk about. I mean, there's always more to talk about, but nothing else I wrote down specifically for this episode. So I think I might end it here. This is right around. I'm hoping this was a good length. A little bit of time, a good half hour's worth of me yapping about NBA, Yap Fest, but not too long that hopefully you got bored. I only talked about 5 teams, I believe. So, small chunk of what is the large NBA landscape. Yeah, but with that said, I think that's going to do it for now. I have not been on a consistent schedule yet, so this is just coming out randomly. And I'm going to try and pick a set date, but it's been difficult. So, and I also don't know if the next one will have a guest or not. It may or it may not. I will say, if I have a guest next time, I'm going to try my best to make sure I do Where Were They Coworkers, because that is fun. But thanks again for listening, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.